gal. Sleepy gal. Yeah, you take her for a little bit. Not intense. But anyway, point is they were getting quite a bit more intense. They were getting closer together. So I went into the bed. I think all of us were in the bedroom, somewhere in the vicinity of the bed. So I would have a contraction and then I would kind of nap, rest, relax through in between the contraction, and then the next one would come. So at that point, I accepted that I was in labor. It was kind of hard not to, but I was still focusing on resting as much as I could, relaxing as much as I could, and relaxing through each contraction as well as relaxing in between each contraction. For me, it was tough. It was tough not to tense up during the contraction, but relaxing in between was easy. So I felt like I almost slept. And then during each contraction, you guys were giving me counter pressure. There was heat pads applied, all of the things.
So hip squeezes?
Hip squeezes were massively helpful. Very, very helpful. For a lot of it, it felt like I was disconnected from myself, if it makes any sense. It kind of feels like you're inside your body, but you're also outside of your body watching what's happening. I was very intentional about focusing on my physical sensations and not thinking too much about what's going on in my head. So really being as primal as I could be through the entire experience, focusing on my body, focusing on all of the things there, rather than giving my head free rein, because I feel like if I had allowed myself to think about what's going on, it would have been so easy to spiral out and go, oh my god, what the heck is happening? This is crazy.
And how did you feel just after your baby was born?
That was probably one of the most amazing feelings I've ever had. There's such a strong, powerful rush of everything, of just hormones and love and happiness and excitement. It's almost like being insanely drunk without the disorientation. It's a really, really crazy feeling. And obviously, all I was paying attention to was her. I don't know what we talk about is we're so grateful that we had your support, that we had all your classes to listen to, we had all that information, that we also had you as a resource to kind of have a sounding board and a little bit of a fact check of some of the other information that was coming in, being able to talk to you about, like, oh, well, this is what this is what the midwives are saying. What's your opinion? What are your thoughts on that? What's your experience with that? Being able to have a more open conversation, which isn't really something that's so possible to do with the midwives or the doctors. They kind of have a spiel that they have to talk to, and they aren't often allowed to go off of the spiel. But having someone we could really talk to and genuinely have a conversation about, especially someone who we're very much aligned in, like how we approach childbirth and labor. Being able to have that resource was huge, because it helped us feel more confident in what we instinctively felt was right and what we kind of wanted to do, or sometimes it helped us guide us in a better direction that we would have gone with. Like the tub, initially we weren't even going to have a boarding pool. I was just going to labor in my bathtub and I'd come out and give birth on the bed. And then after we talked to you and after we listened to some of your experiences, we decided to have the tub, with the idea being, oh, just in case you might want it, let's set it up because you might want it. And of course, you knew that I would want it and I did want it, and that's where we ended up having the little girl. So having someone with so much experience and so many other stories to draw on is huge, to either confirm the thing that you want to do or help you kind of change track a little bit. One of the things that was really, really helpful to talk to you about was GBS and testing for GBS and what to do if you've tested positive for GBS.
And then we were also told that they're afraid about clamping too early because it increases the chance of jaundice. There was some belief there.
Oh, you mean for cord clamping?
Yes.
And no, clamping too late.
Or exactly, clamping too late. They believed that it increased the likelihood. We ended up doing a very late cord clamp after the placenta was delivered, so the cord was like fully white.
No, before, but it was still fully white.
In our case, we never saw her skin ever change like yellowish. Like we were monitoring. There was never any sort of even the smallest indication that she had jaundice. So that was one thing that I guess, I guess there is all of this advice that doesn't force you, but leads you towards supposedly being rational and then taking these steps. It's like you have to go to the hospital. And so it came across as like you don't even have a choice. And then we talked to one of the more experienced midwives, and that's not at all the communication we had with her. It's a little bit easier to make decisions when parents don't feel alone, like they're going through this, and they have no other examples to draw from.
Yeah, I think that's the huge part is having you, Kaurina, with your many years of experience, give some context to a lot of the stuff that's being recommended.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just good to hear different stories and to hear the people that choose a path and are successful, and people that choose the same path and are unsuccessful, and to just then make an individual informed choice about what's the right thing.
Yeah, and navigating all of that as first-time parents is a lot. It's a lot to wade through all that information and to make that decision and to decide also who you trust from the many people that you talk to. So having a supportive doula, having a supportive Kaurina, who we chose, right? We explicitly did our research, talked to, and said, yep, this is a person, we trust this person. It makes it a lot easier to weed through all of the other information that comes at you from people who you maybe didn't necessarily choose, who just end up as being part of your team, because that's how healthcare works here. It's really valuable to have someone with a lot of experience with that advice to give you comfort. It just gives you more confidence to make the decisions that you know you want to make when you have someone in your corner rooting for you. But having someone give you that support and tell you all the stories of how things could be, and give you a little bit of a different perspective than what's typically narrated through the medical world is super valuable.
Because we were on the same page. Like we were very happy to have you as a doula, and so we felt comfortable.
When you're picking your doula, choose one that you could see as a friend, and choose one that you could see inviting to a first birthday party, and that you could see hanging out with, and that you could just have a conversation with. And I think that's a huge thing with you, Kaurina, is just being able to like have a chat and discuss life outside of birth and discuss birth and feel like we're kind of on the same page about stuff. It builds that trust before you go into the birthing process, and then when you're in the birthing process, you know that for me as the mom, as someone who's going through labor, I can release a little bit of the anxiety and say, okay, I have people here that I trust, people that I really trust. So having obviously Chris there, who I fully trust and support, but also having Kaurina, who has the experience, who I trust and support, who we built that relationship with through the prenatal visits and through all the chats that we had, really helped me have confidence that, okay, I can relax a little bit. It was one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, that my birthing story is the way that it is, and that it went the way that it is. It's really exactly what I would have hoped for and what I would have imagined, and I know it's very rare. I'm very lucky that it went that way, but a big reason why it went that way is because we had Kaurina's support when she was here.
How did you find the prenatal classes, and what did you find useful?
They were wonderful. So we went to a different set of prenatal classes before we even talked to you, Kaurina. We went to 3 courses through a hospital in downtown, and they were very generic. And I remember both of us going to the classes and then coming back thinking, we don't really know that we learned very much from that, because it just walks you through. It walks you through the stages of labor, and it walks you through like what are the expected timelines for things to happen. And there's a little bit of conversation around breastfeeding, but it's really not. We didn't find the hospital classes to be very informative in any way. But when we watch your videos, there was so much information there. Firstly, that's not really available anywhere else unless you really, really, really dig. But it's also information that resonated with both of us, because we're both, I don't know if natural approach is the right way, but we both kind of want to do things as close to nature, as close to not intervention as it was intended as possible. And a lot of the times, information from that standpoint is hard to come by, because that's not what the birthing and baby carrying approach in the West is. So having all that info was super important to us. For me, one of the huge things that I really appreciated was that you talked through how labor is from the perspective of the mom, and how it feels like when you're in that space. Not the timing of what's happening, not like the medical approach and all that stuff, but really, this is where you are, this is what you're feeling, this is how it's going to be. I feel like that was really helpful, giving at least a little bit of a heads up to how it was like all going to go, how it was all going to feel. That was hugely, hugely helpful. For both of us also, it was awesome that there was a focus on like the partner aspect of it as well, what Chris could do to help me, and the kind of things he could do to support, because that's also not something that is super widely available unless you're really looking for it. So that was super, super helpful. The breastfeeding class was awesome, that breastfeeding video. Again, not information that's typically presented.
Do you have any advice for moms in first-time moms for labor, or second-time moms, third-time moms, whatever?
I think like with baby, listen to yourself. Because there were times when I knew what my body needed, and the kind of the changing, and I knew what my body wanted and what my body needed without really thinking about it. It's not really a thinky thing at all. It's very intuitive. So I knew what I needed and what was happening. So if I tuned into that, it made things go a lot easier. I think that's the biggest thing. Listen to yourself. Get some sleep.
Do you have a specific example of when you listened to yourself and you found that helpful?
When I got into the tub, that was a big thing. I still thought I was in early labor, so I felt like I should not have been getting into the tub, but I wasn't. I later found out.
You strongly felt like getting into the tub.
I strongly felt like getting into the tub. I strongly felt like I very much needed the release of the hot water and
relaxation.
And the relaxation. I really needed to be able to just calm down and relax all my muscles. And I was finding that I wasn't able to do that just sitting or lying on the bed. Helped me relax. And that's really when I started going into that like dreamlike labor state, is once I got into the tub. Before that, I was still a little bit more here with it maybe. And once I got into the tub, I was really able to relax enough that I was kind of tapping into my body, tapping into all of the sensations, and really going with that, and not really using my brain all too much. So that was hugely helpful for me.